In this video, we're going to talk about Qi'ra Green, where I'm at with that deck, and how you can make a budget version of it. If you're missing some or all legendary cards, let's get straight into it. So, the version I'm playing currently is a 30 HP version, and I do think that if you're trying to make a budget version of this deck, it might be best for you to go with the ECL version, mostly because currently in the game, unfortunately or fortunately, a lot of the big units are just expensive. A lot of the big things, Vader, 50 plus, and then Relentless isn't bad, but Avenger, Snoke, Devastator, they cost tens or multiple of tens of dollars, and Super Laser Blast as well too. So it can be a bit, and it has so many of them in it, right? So the more of those you want, the more expensive your deck is going to be, unfortunately. And if you look at if you look over here on SWODB, and it says that this where is it? Up here. It says that how I've got my deck built right now, including the side, is $442, which is ouchie. That's ouchie. If you don't have all these cards already, that's going to be a pain. But before I get strictly into the budget version of it, just wanted to talk quickly about some of the card choices in here. We'll talk about the side over there in a second, but if you've been looking at Qi'ra Green lists, you probably notice, most of the cards are the same. Probably, on average, 40 of the 50 in the main deck is pretty same, especially with like the 30 HP Qi'ras like I've got right here. Some changes that I've made recently, and there's actually a change that I'm going to make that's not on this list yet, and we'll get to that in a second. But one of the changes I made is, before I used to be playing only 2 Dr. Pershings, and I was playing 2 entrenches in here, and I was playing 0 top targets. And I had 3 top targets in the side, but especially for some of my locals just do best of ones, and so I absolutely had to get a top target in the main deck for the best of ones, because you need a little bit more healing than just make an opening and vigilance against some aggressive decks. So that's something I did there. But the other thing you needed hedges against control too. And while 2 Dr. Pershings was awesome, for me personally, week over week, Dr. Pershing has just been proving to me, at least, how insane he is. And so I decided to put him up to 3. I just put him up to 3. I want to see him. I just want to see him. And so that's why I did that. He's crazy. So I'm going to try to not talk too in depth on everything. But for me, Dr. Pershing, even against an aggressive deck, is useful, because as a turn 1 play, the aggressive deck has to decide whether they're killing Dr. Pershing or not, and just having to put that decision on them is helpful, because they probably haven't had to make that decision very often, because he isn't particularly popular yet, and they usually think it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna hit the base and that's fine. And that might be fine. That might be fine for them, but I'm not gonna die in 2 turns, and I'm likely not going to die in 3 turns. And Dr. Pershing, if the difference is that Dr. Pershing letting me get 2 or 3 cards deeper into my deck means that I have more options, so that I can, potentially play a 2 and a 3 on the 5 energy turn, or I actually have the cards in my hand now that can deal with what my opponent's done. I do have a vigilance to play on 6 to kill something and heal up again, and it could be the difference. And it seems like it has been for me personally. It feels really insane at keeping your options wide as you're even potentially ramping on the second turn too with a resupply or a super laser tech. Okay, I probably don't need to talk too much more about Dr. Pershing, but I really do believe he's insane. The other thing that's nice is he's got 5 health, and he can deal the damage to himself. You can use him to do it to a super laser technician if you need to get that resource and do something with it immediately too, which is nice. Or if your opponent starts playing in the space arena and your super laser tech can't die, well, Dr. Pershing lets you kill your super laser tech and you can get ramped up and start playing more stuff for more resources. But the thing with Dr. Pershing too is if at any point an aggressive deck decides to attack Dr. Pershing, that is also awesome because that means they're not attacking my base. So even if Dr. Pershing is a 2 resource play that I play on the first turn that lets me draw 1 card and then essentially heals my base for 4, or sometimes even still 5, because a lot of the times they're not going to be able to cleanly attack Dr. Pershing for exactly 4 damage. It might be like a 3 attack and then a 2 attack, or who even knows if they have to do something crazy like use a fleet lieutenant to boost a battlefield marine to kill it or something because they don't want it. Dude, and I'm not saying that's correct, but the fact that they have to make that decision or think about that is awesome. And if they ever do it, it's awesome too. So it also helps Child Sin stay big. You get to draw more cards. Child Sin stays big. It's awesome. Okay, gosh, we're seriously 6 minutes into this, and I've mostly been talking about Dr. Pershing. But you'll see we do have just 2 resupply in here. I do have a resupply in the side. That's just for if I have to go against the big decks too, then we can go up to and match a higher amount of ramp threshold for the main deck. Everything else I think is mostly looking probably the same for a lot of green Qi'ra lists. A lot of them playing 2 Snoke, 2 Avenger, 1 Relentless, 1 Devastator. It just actually does seem like the right ratio, and really thankful to Woo for helping us all be comfortable playing one-ofs. And it's Devastator is nice. Sometimes you need it because you need to be able to specifically kill exactly something that your opponent has, and Avenger can't do that because your opponent will just choose a weaker thing. Relentless, being able to just stop events, so good. And Snoke is just good against everything. I love Snoke so much. What else do we say? The change that I didn't mention that I'm going to be doing is I am going to be cutting Fell the Dragon. I am going to start playing Vanquish over Fell the Dragon, and the reason for that is that a decent amount of Sabine decks are starting to pivot to the Adelphi Patrol Wing. It is a 5 cost. I think it's a 5 cost ship in space that has 4 power and 6 HP, and if you have the initiative, it lets you attack with something and give it +2 power. But the thing about that is it's a ship. It has 4 power, so it doesn't die to Fell the Dragon, and it has 6 health, so it doesn't die to Takedown. And especially against an aggressive deck, if they get to play something like that in space that you don't get to interact with for 2 turns, you're probably dead. And Vanquish can kill that. The other thing is, I've been seeing some amount, especially there's a really good player locally who's been playing some green Cad Bane, but I've also personally been playing some blue Cad Bane. In Cad Bane's ship, the Xanadu Blood is also a 4/6, but it attacks for 6 power though. So it gets to dodge Fell the Dragon, but still also hit you for 6. I've had that card sit on in my opponent's space arena for 3 turns before, and because I just couldn't kill it. Couldn't kill it with Takedown, couldn't kill it with Fell the Dragon. Trying to figure the resources out and manage everything to like overwhelming barrage it to get it into Takedown range. It's a huge pain. And it's 1 more resource, so I just don't care. Vanquish will save me against those things. And a lot of the times I don't think that the 1 resource difference is going to make or break like me dying. Most of the time I can afford a Vanquish, I feel like. That's me personally. Make your own decisions. I trust you. And I think that's all we got to say about the main deck. Yeah, it's looking pretty same. You'll notice no client. Yeah, I like Death Trooper more than client. Death Trooper can come out from Vader and do something immediately. The client is a bit slower in the action economy, mostly really only good in Bosk where you can get the double bounty proc. Yeah, I just like Death Trooper more, I think. And then for the side deck over here, I've got 2 top targets because we put 1 in the main. We still have an Entrench over here. This is just, Entrench is partially a hedge for a lurking TIE Phantom or just anybody else who, if you're needing to play a harder control essentially against people who are going to be putting big spaceships up before you can get your big spaceships up. I've got 1 Confiscate in here to just side against the Sabine matchup to be able to, if I get to have it and they play Darksaber, excellent. If not, it's fine. It's just 1, but I wanted some type of hedge there. I do have 1 Rivals Fall in here just to side against Boba Fett if they're playing the Boba Fett's armor, even though Qi'ra is really good at being able to take care of Boba Fett and Boba Fett's armor. It sometimes still just doesn't line up excellently. Sometimes you get to do the flip and they still get to put the Boba's armor on, and then Boba's still has more than 5 HP, and then you don't get to use takedown on him. It can still be challenging, so I just wanted to put 1 Rivals Fall in here, even though Qi'ra is mostly good enough at taking out the leaders. And then, yeah, I already mentioned the resupply to play against bigger decks. And then we've got Palpatine's Return to play against any red decks that want to discard our hand, or even if we have to just play it against the grindier matchups, potentially like Palpatine Green. And then, yeah, 2 more big ships for the same thing. Again, we got to play against the big decks. We can make our deck a little bit bigger too. So here we go. As far as turning this into a budget version, okay? The challenges here, like I mentioned before, are a lot of the way that you're closing the game out, at least especially in the 30 HP version of Qi'ra, is you've got the big ships and you've got Snoke. But all of those are, like, other than Darth Vader, are the most expensive part of the deck, right? So you'd most likely have to pivot this deck into a little bit of a faster version of it. And part of that would be, if you don't have Vaders, then you maximize Maul. Get your Mauls up to 3. That'll be fine. Some options that we have, and because it's mostly going to be the units, right? All these other events, they're pretty cheap, except for Vigilance. And the Vigilance is expensive too, geez. But I think you can get by without Vigilance if you play top target in the deck, or if you want to instead turn Vigilance into a client. Like I said, it's going to be less optimal, but it could be client, and you're playing more units to the board, and that can be fine. Vigilance could also be replaced with more takedown. You could split it, right? You could play 1 more takedown, play 1 more top target, and then you could play an Entrench in here, right? And then you're getting some more healing, you're getting some more removal tools. Overall, they're cheaper than Vigilance. In those cases, if doing this, I really would even more so advocate for playing Dr. Pershing, because essentially one of the reasons Vigilance is good is because you're getting to defeat something and heal in 1 card. And while technically takedown and top target combined are better than Vigilance, and cheaper, you'd only pay 5, it takes 2 actions, it takes 2 cards. And so it's slower, and you're going to need to use 2 cards. So I would definitely advocate for Dr. Pershing to be able to draw some more cards. Just a thought. You could also turn a Vigilance into a Vanquish. You could still play two fellow dragons, and then you could turn Vigilance into a takedown, a Vanquish, and a top target. You could turn the Darth Vaders into Mauls. You probably, like I said, you could turn into the Energy Conversion Lab variant, and your super laser blasts could be Gideon Hasks. That way you have some solid ambush targets. Gideon Hask is an awesome ambush target. You could make them rooks. Rooks they got shielded and defeats non-leaders just by attacking them. Really strong. For the big ships, you could replace them. Of course, if you've been following the channel since Spark of Rebellion, you'll know I'm already gonna suggest Reinforcement Walker. I love this card. It's a really strong card. You could totally put Reinforcement Walker in instead of some of these bigger ships. And what else could we do here? You could do the Artiquin's Assault Cruiser. It has ambush. It's a big ship. It's much, much cheaper. It'll be able to actually defeat something in space immediately. Of course, Avenger is better, but if you've got to be on a budget, these are some solid options. Another thing that you can do, totally valid for like Darth Vader replacements, is you could play Pirate Battle Tank. That's solid for smuggling. You could also, of course, Lom Pike is insane. I don't have Lom Pike in this build currently, but I have played it before. Lom Pike, super strong card. I know this card's not the cheapest card anymore. I think this card might be like $5+. It's solid, really great card. And like I said, that's going to turn your deck into much more of a mid-range and less of a soft control because you're playing even more units. But like I said, if you got to be budget, you got to be budget. You could fit a Count Dooku in here. I don't think there'd be anything wrong with getting a Dooku in. Like I said though, I'd highly recommend getting Reinforcement Walker in there. And if you want to be extra cute, there is like a vehicle package you could do if you want to somehow try to fit Admiral Pietz in here to be able to give your vehicles ambush. So then you can just snowball a Reinforcement Walker. You can totally change some of these cards around to, like I said, that Pirate Battle Tank. You could do, you've got a decent amount of blue units. You could play the Cargo Juggernaut, which you'd also be able to ambush with Energy Conversion Lab. Some solid options. So think about that. I don't know exactly what you do. Like I said, you probably there's not this many good budget big ships or even units, ground units. So you'll probably have to pivot into some more removal and then just some bit more mid-range units, like I suggested. That's how you would make Qi'ra legit. I hope you enjoyed the video. That's what I've got for you today. Leave me a comment if you got any feedback about anything, or maybe some decks you'd like to see next. See some insights in them, and maybe even how I would make them budget as well. I do believe I'm going to talk to you about a Cad Bane blue deck that I've been playing and I've been loving. That'll be out super soon too. It might even be out before this video. We'll see. And I also have a plan for doing this for Boba Green. So that's what I've got on the horizon. We got Boba Green, we got blue Cad Bane, and we'll see what else I get for you next. Leave a comment, let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.